is our current education system in Australia offering students their best chance to learn? Over the course of the next 5 minutes, I will attempt to answer this question in relation to the aims and goals of education within the context of formal and informal learning. But before I can begin that discussion, let's explore the key terms involved. What is education? Education is the process of teaching or learning and is typically discussed in connection with formal and informal learning. But more on that shortly. First, I want to look at that definition of education and a key word that stands out to me: learning. For the purpose of this video, I'll be using the educational psychology definition, which is that learning is a step-by-step process in which an individual experiences permanent, lasting changes in knowledge, behaviours, or ways of processing the world. Now, both of these definitions have a common term: process. Teaching and learning is a progression that happens over an extended period of time and is a system of developing both as a student and a teacher. It's not something we reach instantly, but instead is something we need to work towards, constantly setting goals and assessing our achievements along the way. Education is in a constant state of improvement, and because of this, it can be difficult to fully understand what it is and what it involves. The aim of the Australian education system is to enable children and young adults with the information deemed necessary for them to become successful members of their community and society as a whole. This information is provided to them over 13 years of schooling, but are we giving each student the best chance to learn and implement this knowledge over the course of their lives? To answer that, let's go back to looking at those types of education I mentioned earlier. What is formal and informal education? Well, this classroom is an example of formal education, and this image here on the board is an example of informal education. Formal education is exactly what it sounds like: education given in an official, structured setting, for example, a school or a university. Learning in a formal setting is strictly controlled by a set curriculum. And in the Australian education system, the curriculum is tailored and aimed towards students successfully completing standardised tests. Partington describes formal education as conscious instruction and claims that it is more efficient than its informal counterpart. Within formal education, there exists something called the hidden curriculum. Partington explains it as unintentional learning that occurs in schools or other educational facilities. For example, during the 13 years a student spends in schooling, they will learn how to work alongside their peers, and through their different peer groups, they can learn how they will fit in society and what their role in life may be. While unintended, this subconscious learning is incredibly important for the student's development of self-identity. But as it is hidden, it is very unpredictable and hard to control or influence for the better. The greatest and most apparent benefit of formal education is that every student is being provided with the same information and chance to learn. The idea being that this will create equality. But does it? Every student is unique, and this means they learn in ways that differ from their peers. So shouldn't we as educators be tailoring our curriculum to reflect this and allow our students a truly equal chance to learn? It's important that we ask these questions and work towards finding answers and implementing changes to the role of formal learning in the education of young Australians. In comparison, informal education is the process of cultivating learning, and it works through conversation and the exploration and enlargement of experience. Put simply, informal education is an organic, structure-free environment that allows people to learn from their peers and broaden their education by exposing themselves to people with life experiences that differ from their own. During the early years of a child's development, subconscious informal learning is crucial in allowing the child to shape their own identity within the context of their community and family. This learning varies drastically depending on the child's environment, socioeconomic situation, and family. Schools, however, are only focused on the academic skills a child acquires before attending school. However, all informal learning undertaken in the first 5 years of their life directly influences their self-identity and role in both their education and society. Due to the freedom created by this lack of structure, informal learning can occur in many ways. One of these ways is by setting ourselves personal projects, like knitting. Another example is conversations we have with the people in our lives, which can often be prompted by our surroundings. You can see here myself and the 2 children I care for on a holiday in the French Alps, discussing the French words we need to order our meals. We are learning, but because there are no tests to pass, we are discussing only what is relevant and interesting to us. And it is that relevance that is dictating the direction of our learning. Because in these situations there is a clear emphasis on the freedom and casual nature of informal education, people are far more likely to absorb and retain the information presented to them. And this helps to shape the learning experience into a more enjoyable one. As discussed by Badley, Isink, and Anderson, if someone is interested in what they are learning, they are far more likely to be paying complete attention, which helps the brain to correctly process and store this newly learned information in their long-term memory. So to answer the question we began this discussion with, no, we are not providing students with the best possible education because we are not providing flexible and individualised learning experiences that support and nurture the unique and individualised nature of these students. Informal learning has great benefits, but it also has weaknesses that formal learning is able to correct. So perhaps the answer for the future of the Australian education system is to find a happy medium between the two methods. A method which allows students to control the direction of their learning using a method known as bottom-up, which should empower learners to understand and, if necessary, change the social structure around them. This new method has the potential to allow students to maintain attention and enthusiasm, but still remaining within a broad structure that can ensure they are learning what is needed to become successful and beneficial members of their global community. In conclusion, students must be given control over their own education, as it is the only viable way to ensure all students benefit from their years in the Australian education system, and are not limited or disadvantaged by the constraints of the current formal structure.